Higher education acquires new relevance and visibility at a time when the concept of the knowledge society is being put forward as crucial in ensuring the quality of social and economic change in the 21st century. A two-day dialogue held in Bangalore in October 2011 on higher education aimed at generating a consensus regarding the importance of evidence-based policy making. The challenge of developing and experimenting with different approaches to higher education was also an important focus of the dialogue. Karnataka state was the focus of deliberations, where a considerable amount of higher education innovation has already been happening in this initiative.
The policy dialogues are organized as part of British Council's program called Internationalizing Higher Education. It focuses on four areas. One of them is developing collaborative academic partnerships. The other is about having policy dialogues, basically think tanks, across several cities in the world. This is the fifth one in India that we are hosting in Bangalore, and focusing particularly on what are the kind of innovations that are taking place in higher education in this particular state.
This policy dialogue, jointly organized by the Higher Education Innovation and Research Applications, HEIRA, at the Centre for Study of Culture and Society, Bangalore, and the British Council in India, in partnership with the Centre for Contemporary Studies, IISc, Bangalore, is aimed at internationalizing higher education to significantly strengthen academic and research partnerships between higher education institutions in the UK and India.
Innovation is sometimes only a buzzword. Anything that seems to be remotely new or relatively new is hailed as innovation, and is something that we might want to promote. But I think that what this 2 days of discussion will be debating is why do we need this innovation? How are we going to bring about these innovations that we decide need to be done, and for what do we need the innovations? In many ways, the innovation idea cannot bypass the question of institutional transformation, the problem of the disciplines and the rigidity, the questions of assessment, of evaluation, of accreditation, question of regulation and autonomy, of structuring. There are many, many large issues that we need to take on board, and we can't simply say that promoting innovation is going to actually help us deal with all of this. I don't think that by any means this dialogue is about that, but really we are taking on board the large and difficult problems to which sometimes innovation can be an answer.
The issue of gross enrollment ratio and massification in higher education set the debate.
Gross enrollment ratio. This is a term, it's interesting because it's a controversial term. It has now become the mantra of higher education policy, but it is a controversial term. The key to higher education reform and development is precisely how to negotiate the increase in gross enrollment ratio of the age group, that is to say, to lead to massification.
Empowering state universities and imparting quality education was another area of discussion.
Widening access to higher education is not about producing less qualified students. It also has to reaching out increasingly broad range of learners with different motivations and interests across the country now. And if you look at the evolution of the higher education system, the ecosystem is changing very fast. New players are getting in, and new types of modes of delivery are coming into the country. So like this, the diversity is increasing now, right from the state universities to this, and also two more things are on the annual, that is innovation universities. The state governments are creating innovation universities, and also the MHRD has constituted a task force, expert committees to conceive idea of what an innovation university has to be, how it has to be started. We have to expand higher education, but we cannot ignore these different things. So somewhere the policy decisions have to be made to strengthen state universities. That is the backbone of higher education. The system has to be improved. We cannot improve one or two institutions in the country and say that higher education is doing better job. The mean performance of the system has to be improved. Therefore, the concern is you empower the state universities through the faculty, through the infrastructure, whatever you think of, then naturally these things would happen.
A discussion on biological research and its need to be embedded with universities set the motion for an interdisciplinary approach in higher education.
The nature of biology and its need for an interdisciplinary student, I think, is a very exciting prospect for higher education in general. And I think there's a huge challenge in scaling up biological research in the country. Unless we scale up basic biological research, I just want to make a point again that there's no and build a language for the research. There's no way that we're going to be able to translate anything because we don't have any stories to translate into sort of industrial technology-based programs that are generated locally. Only place where you can produce people who will be the biology researchers of the future is going to be in a university, because that's perhaps where you can have highly grounded disciplinary work for biological research. And so I'm actually, coming from an institution which is doing rather well, I'm making a plea that biological research gets re-embedded in some form in university programs.
Innovation in higher education in Karnataka is already happening, and some institutions presented their success stories. Relevance of dual degree program in higher education along with the industrial support, a concept in Manipal University, was discussed.
I feel a student in today's world is not completed his education till he has had an exposure to a different learning environment. And that kind of a mobility was possible through a dual degree program. The cost of education came down. If it is funded like in the first program, it's fine, but this is more of an exception than a rule. But when you have a part of the education happening in India and the other part in a more developed country and more expensive country, then it cuts down the cost by half. That is an opportunity for the student to pursue his PhD or to seek employment after completing either his master's or his PhD in a different country altogether.
Christ University, which is adhering to the quality assurance model in higher education, gave a different dimension to the discussion. A law school model to provide legal system to the grassroots was also discussed. Ninasam, a cultural organization, and its role in creating a social development in Karnataka was also part of the deliberations. State universities and their role in strengthening research was one of the major issues discussed. The policy dialogue focused on the need to strengthen support system in higher education. The dialogue aimed at a policy initiative giving thrust to developing human resources and to meet all the related dynamics in higher education.
The 2 days of intense discussion, argument, dialogue, consensus building, all of this has happened. And maybe this group, as a small group, could take one step forward by working out of their own areas, their own institutions and their own disciplines, and to build on innovations they've already undertaken, and maybe work on one focused area for the next few years. I think that by consensus, this area is teacher development or human resource development. So I think people are quite happy to arrive at this sort of conclusion, and now are thinking and brainstorming about what possible ways by which this particular initiative can be taken forward.